Welcome to Herd Mentality, a podcast from StoneX where we discuss global dairy markets and what's driving them. It's important to remember that the trading of derivatives such as futures, options, and over-the-counter products or swaps may not be suitable for all investors. Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future results. I think it was 2 episodes ago, I said I was going to start saying the date when we were recording these, because sometimes there's relevant market information and it'll be helpful to know when I actually recorded it. I forgot to do that on the last episode, but I've remembered to do it today. I'm recording this on June 17th at about 10 p.m. Central U.S. time, but joining me is Matt Manning in Sydney, Australia, where it is June 18th around lunchtime. Welcome, Matt. Can you give us a little background about yourself?
Hi, Nate. Thanks for having me on. So I'm a broker with StoneX, working on the dairy desk here in Sydney, mainly working with both commercial clients and farmers in the Asia Pacific region. Previously, I worked with NZX in New Zealand, the exchange there, where I spent time working on the SGX NZX dairy partnership, as well as sales across dairy, carbon, and equity
I was
futures.
trying to get a hold of you 2 weeks ago to discuss the GDT results, and you were too busy preparing for Fieldays in New Zealand, which happened last week. Can you describe what Fieldays is?
Sure. So Fieldays is one of the largest agricultural events in the Southern Hemisphere. It's held annually in New Zealand, takes place in Hamilton, which is in the heart of dairy country in the Waikato region. So Fieldays is a really exciting event for anyone in the agricultural space. It's really an event where the agricultural industry in New Zealand showcases innovation, network, and learns. It's also widely known as the best place to buy new equipment, feed, and products because most exhibitors offer special field day rates, which are hard to beat for the rest of the year. So I think there was about 150,000 people across 4 days.
It's pretty good. In the US, we have a lot of state fairs where for a week or 6 days, 10 days, it used to be very agricultural based, but everybody gets together, you bring in animals, show animals, you have all the new machinery there, and obviously a lot of fried foods. Is Field Day similar? Do they show animals, or is it just mostly machinery and knowledge?
Uh, I personally didn't see any animals there this year. But yeah, there was definitely a lot of machinery. All your agricultural consultants are there, banks are there, and then yeah, so it's the biggest day of the year by far for all the feed suppliers in New Zealand as well. And there's all sorts of things. Even I think there was a fencing competition, and there's tractor pulling and all sorts of stuff there as well. So you definitely see a lot of kids as well as farmers.
Fencing, as in with swords?
No, building fences. So it's like a race to put up a fence as fast as you possibly can. Yeah.
Huh. That's a new one to me. I can tell you we don't have fence building competitions at the Minnesota State Fair. So, what was StoneX doing at Field Days?
Yeah, so we were launching our new milk price risk management app called StoneX Trading, which we were really excited about. We've been working on it for a really long time, and to have the opportunity to launch it at Field Days and show it to a wide range of farmers was really exciting for us.
Is this app available outside of New Zealand?
Not, no, it's not. It is restricted to New Zealand at this point. The reason being, there are a lot of, well, the contracts settle to the Fonterra farm gate milk price. So yeah, it's really aimed at providing milk price risk management tools to farmers on the ground in New Zealand.
And what can they do with it? Trade futures, trade options?
Yeah, so at this stage, the initial offering, and we will look to build on this through time. We wanted to start this as simply as possible to give farmers access to these tools. So at this stage, it we offer put options, which enable farmers to set a price floor, meaning they know their worst case outcome for their hedged milk solids, they can do that up to 3 seasons in advance. So at the moment, it's the 24 season, which is about to come to an end, the 25 season, and then the 26 season. And then obviously, when the contract settles in September this year for the 24 season, then the 27 season will roll off.
That's that's interesting. How did we come up with the idea for this?
So we've been working on this for over a year. Part of the reason why we started to work on this product is farmers in New Zealand are complete price takers and they face a lot of risk within their business. Price risk makes up about 50% of the total risk to profit margin for farms in New Zealand. And these farms are often operating highly leveraged businesses and they're forced to make decisions that will impact their costs over a year before they have any idea what they're going to be paid. Um, we also sat there and thought, well, why, given that, why aren't more farmers hedging in New Zealand? So, for example, the 23-24 milk season, which is coming to an end, only about 9% of New Zealand's total milk production was hedged. So, that's done using SGX, NZX, milk price futures and options. And then there are also processor fixed milk price tools offered by the likes of Fonterra, Open Country Dairy, and OFI. So when we sat there and looked at why that number was so low and spoke to people around the industry, the two things that came up commonly were that onboarding can be very difficult for a traditional exchange traded futures account. And also from farmers, a very common thing you hear about these fixed milk price tools is that they hate leaving money on the table at the end of the season. And yeah, I mean, I think they've definitely got a tendency to remember the times where they left money on the table, and sometimes I guess it's easy to forget the seasons where it helped your business. So to tackle the accessibility piece, a key thing with this app for us was to work on the onboarding process. So historically, I think the fastest we've onboarded a farmer was maybe 2 months, with lots of rounds of changes on the paperwork. So we've gone away and created an online onboarding process, which should take no more than 15 minutes, which is really exciting for us. The other piece is we decided to use put options. Because it enables farmers to have certainty around their income by establishing a price floor, and yet still have participation and upside. The other piece that's nice about put options is that you pay your premium at the start of the season, and then you just move on. There's no margin calls. You just have your price floor in place, and then you can go and make informed business decisions for the year ahead, whether that's fixing your feed at certain levels and things like that. It also allows these farmers to have really good discussions with their bank, which, from what we're hearing from bankers, allows them to hopefully get more competitive rates sometimes as well if they have a robust hedging policy in place.
Yeah, that's something we see in the U.S. that some farmers are able to get better loan terms if they're have a decent portion of their production hedged. That 9% of milk being hedged in New Zealand, I was trying to think. I think the last time we tried to do the calculation for the U.S., our estimate was that somewhere around 15% of U.S. milk was hedged, but we also have government subsidized, effectively put options here in the U.S. called dairy revenue protection. And through DRP, we can see 20, 30, maybe a little bit more percent of the milk hedged. So um, those put options are certainly appealing for the farmers, and even more appealing if the government subsidizes it for you. But um, so, what was the reception from farmers? You talked to quite a few.
Yeah, we did. We were lucky enough to have many discussions with farmers over the 4 days. I think we've come away really excited about the product. Obviously, we thought it was a good product, but it was just great to be on the ground having these discussions with farmers in New Zealand and showing them what we've made, I guess. And the reception from them was very positive. There was a lot of farmers, for example, Fonterra farmers, who have been hedging, either using futures or mainly the Fonterra fixed milk price offering. And they were excited because the Fonterra fixed milk price only allows you to hedge up to 50% of your production. And some of these farmers said, this is great. I can hedge an extra 20 or 30% on top of what I've traditionally been able to do using this app. And it's really simple. So yeah, I think we've come away feeling very excited after that week at Field Days.
And how many farmers asked you whether the price was going up or going down?
Every single one of them. I wish we knew. We're obviously lucky enough to have you and your team doing your best to try and give us some clarity. But yeah, at the end of the day, no one knows. I would say the overall sentiment from farmers was that they're seeing some real risks. I think at the moment, if you take a look at it, and you're probably better to speak to this than I am, but a big part of the current milk price for the 25 season is coming from a really strong butter or fat market. And I think the farmers are quite aware of the risk in that fat market potentially sliding and that affecting their milk price. And the other thing that we heard on a few farmers' minds was the current rhetoric of the Reserve Bank in New Zealand is that, they're saying that we still aren't quite on top of inflation and they may potentially hike later this year or early next year. Whether or not we think that's actually going to happen is another question, but there is a risk there that the Fed cuts and the Reserve Bank in New Zealand hikes, and that would really strengthen the Kiwi dollar. So that would be very negative on milk price if that were to happen. So that was on a few people's minds as well, for sure.
One last question. I know was a recent election in New Zealand. A new government has come in, one that's a little bit more friendly towards the farmers, and some pending environmental regulations have now been shelved or they're going to redesign the programs. Um, was that a point of discussion with the farmers?
Yes. So there was actually the Prime Minister was at Field Days talking about this actually. So for those who aren't quite so familiar with the emissions trading scheme, it's called in New Zealand. It's very similar to the emissions trading scheme model seen in Europe, where essentially there are carbon credits uh, where it prices carbon. So the government offers credits on an auction, and those who are emitting carbon are required to go and buy credits on the auction and then surrender them based on what they've emitted every year. So that's been running for a while now. Um, there have been some wider impacts that's very talked about in the agricultural space in New Zealand because you can also produce carbon credits by having a forestry operation, for example, where you're removing carbon from the atmosphere, meaning you can sell your carbon credits to an emitter, um, which has been encouraging in some cases people turning active, productive working land, farmland, into forestry, which is the reason why it's quite a hot topic. But the Prime Minister actually announced recently from the new national government that they will not be including the ag sector in the emissions trading scheme. So I think that has relieved a lot of stress in the ag industry in New Zealand about, their costs significantly increasing. Yeah, whether that changes in the future or not is another question, but it looks like they're safe for now.
Does it do anything to change the production outlook for this current 24/25 season?
I would say definitely not. There was going to be no impact this year necessarily. So yeah, I would say definitely not. But I think what it has done is it has made farmers in New Zealand feel a lot more positive about how profitable their businesses will be going forward. And look, there's a whole lot of other stuff going on in New Zealand outside of the emissions trading scheme to incentivize farmers to make their operations more environmentally sustainable going forward. So, for example, the banks will offer extremely low rates on any lending for sustainable projects in agriculture. So whether that's building a new effluent system on your farm, which means there's less runoff going into waterways for anything of the like. There are banks lending to people as low as 1-2%, which is incredibly low. It's a loss leading business for them. But yeah, the banks are really in behind the agricultural industry in New Zealand, trying to make the operations more sustainable, which is great to see.
Yeah, it is. And I've learned something. So thank you, Matt. Thank you for your time today.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks, Nate.
The StoneX Dairy team spans the US, EU, Asia, and Oceania, providing market intelligence, analysis, and forecasts through our interactive data platform called StoneX Plus, as well as full-service brokerage on the major dairy exchanges, the CME, EEX, and SGX. If you're interested in finding out more about our market intelligence or brokerage services, you can find more information on stonex.com.
This communication is issued in the European Economic Area by StoneX Financial Europe SA, SFE by the SFE presenters noted. This communication is issued in the United States by FCM division of StoneX Financial Inc., SFI, by the SFI presenters noted. And the material should be construed as the solicitation of trading strategies and or services provided by SFI. StoneX is the trade name used by StoneX Group Inc. and all its associated entities and subsidiaries. StoneX Group Inc. companies provide financial services worldwide through its subsidiaries, including physical commodities, securities, exchange traded and over-the-counter, under derivatives, risk management, global payments, and foreign exchange products in accordance with applicable law in the jurisdictions where services are provided. References to certain over-the-counter products or swaps are made on behalf of StoneX Markets, LLC SXM, a member of the National Futures Association NFA and provisionally registered with the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission CFTC as a swap dealer. SXM products are designed only for individuals or firms who qualify under CFTC rules as an eligible contract participant and who have been accepted as customers of SXM. Wealth management is offered through SA Stone Wealth Management Inc., member FINRA/SIPC, and SA Stone Investment Advisors Inc., and SEC Registered Investment Advisor, both wholly owned subsidiaries of StoneX Group Inc. StoneX Financial Limited SFL is registered in England and Wales, company No. 5,616,586. SFL is authorized and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority registration number FRN 446,717 to provide to professional and eligible customers including arrangement, execution and, where required, clearing derivative transactions in exchange-traded futures and options. SFL is also authorized to engage in the arrangement and execution of transactions in certain OTC products, certain securities trading, precious metals trading and payment services to eligible customers. SFL is authorized regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority under the Payment Services Regulations 2017 for the provision of payment services. SFL is a Category 1 ring dealing member of the London Metal Exchange. In addition, SFL also engages in other physically delivered commodities business and other general business activities which are unregulated and not required to be authorized by the Financial Conduct Authority. StoneX Financial Europe SA, SFE is a securities trading firm registered in the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg under Company No. RC Lux B 10,821. SFE is authorized by the Luxembourg Ministry of Finance and regulated by the Commission de Surveillance du Secteur Financier Registration No. P00000-012 to carry out, inter alia, the activities of investment advisor, portfolio manager, professional acting on own account, broker in financial instruments, and commission agent. StoneX Financial T. Limited, Co. Reg. No. 201,130,598 RSFP holds a capital market services license and is regulated by Monetary Authority of Singapore Massive for dealing in exchange-traded derivatives contracts, OTC derivatives contracts and spot foreign exchange contracts for the purposes of leveraged foreign exchange trading. StoneX Financial HK Limited C No. BCQ 152-HK is regulated by the Hong Kong Securities and Futures Commission for dealing in futures contracts. StoneX Group Inc. acts as agent for SFL in New York with respect to its payment services business. StoneX Financial T. Limited acts as agent for SFL in Singapore with respect to its payment services business. Trading swaps and over-the-counter derivatives, exchange-traded derivatives and options and securities involve substantial risk and is not suitable for all investors. These materials represent the opinions and viewpoints of the author and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints and trading strategies employed by the FCM division of SFI or SXM. These materials represent the opinions and viewpoints of the author and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints and trading strategies employed by the FCM division of SFI or SXM. The information herein is not a recommendation to trade nor investment research or an offer to buy or sell any derivative or security. It does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs and does not create a binding obligation on any of the StoneX Group Inc. of companies to enter into any transaction with you. You are advised to perform an independent investigation of any transaction to determine whether any transaction is suitable for you. SFP may distribute analysis/report produced by its respective foreign affiliates within the StoneX Group of companies pursuant to an arrangement under Regulation 32C of the Financial Advisors Regulations. The analysis/report is only permitted to be distributed in Singapore to a person who is an accredited investor, expert investor, or an institutional investor as defined under Section 4A of the Securities Futures Act Singapore. Recipients should contact SFP at 65-6309-1000 for any matters arising from or in connection with the analysis or report distributed. No part of this material may be copied, photocopied, or duplicated in any form by any means or redistributed without the prior written consent of StoneX Group Inc. Copyright 2024 StoneX Group Inc. All rights reserved.